Today we have a fun challenge between me and RJ over at D&D Builds to see who can build the evilest healer in D&D. After finishing this video, be sure to go down to the description and click on his video, watch both of them, and then you can leave a comment saying which build you preferred. And with that, my friends, let's get into the evilest healer. If you love D&D builds, you're going to love this channel, so scroll on down and hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, go ahead and give D&D builds a subscribe as well, as they are awesome. But with that, my friends, let's jump into it. So when I think about the evilest healer, a couple things come to mind. The first is self-healing, and they heal via suctioning blood from an enemy. Think of vampire, they're evil healers, right? They take the energy from someone else and they give it to themselves. The second idea is that you can heal an ally, but it requires a cost, so you have to spend some life energy to give them some healing. And finally, you have a healer that's only willing to work for money. So it's an idea that's along the lines of, yes, I can revivify you, I'll be your insurance policy, but I require 20 gold a day in order to be your insurance policy. Now, that one might be confrontational at your table, so take it with a grain of salt, but if you have a really flexible table willing to play with that roleplay, you can be a greedy bastard of a healer. Could be fun. We're gonna try and mix all three of these into this build, so let's jump into it. Let's begin with our lineage. Now, this character is going to need to be able to hang out in the back line as well as the front line. We need that flexibility. I'll explain more why later, but in order to get that flexibility, we're going to be a mountain dwarf. Mountain dwarves allow us to have medium armor, which is going to be a massive benefit to our AC. We are going to be a squishy caster. But that's not all. It also is going to allow us to have a +2/+2, which for a very specific stat array is going to be amazing for us. So let's go into that stat array. We're going to have our primary in charisma, a secondary in constitution, and a tertiary in dexterity, needing to only get it to 14, and that's for our medium armor. Past that, we dump any extra points into wisdom just to try and help out our wisdom save a little bit. Let's talk about our leveling structure here. Well, we are going to be going into one class. We are going to be going into Sorcerer the whole entire time, and specifically, we're going to be going into the Divine Soul Sorcerer. The evil version of Divine Soul, of course. So let's begin our journey with level 1. We are kind of a unique type of Sorcerer. We're a tankier than normal Sorcerer, and then because we went with the evil version of Divine Soul Sorcerer, we have Inflict Wounds. So every now and again, we're going to want to get up close and just do a burst amount of damage. As for our cantrips, we get to pick 4 either from the Sorcerers or Clerics. From the Clerics, I definitely want to pick up Toll the Dead. Toll the Dead strikes me as evil, and it also does fantastic damage, and it's a saving throw one. Then from the Sorcerer, we can pick up Chill Touch. It has a longer range, and then it's an attack-based cantrip, so now we have a lot of damage coverage between those two. We have saving throws, attacks, different ranges. We are a support ultimately, so we do want to protect ourselves. Shocking Grasp can help us disengage from enemies while doing damage, so if we don't want to choose and just have to take the disengage action, it's a good option for us. And then Thaumaturgy is one of my favorite flavor spells in the entire game. We can make ourselves just look cool with glowing red eyes, and it just adds to that evilness that we are putting together. So I'm going to be taking that just because it's fun. Now, because we have Inflict Wounds and we have well-rounded damage cantrips, for our first level spells, we really want to focus in on defense and healing. On the defensive side, we don't need mage armor because we're a dwarf and we have medium armor, so that allows us to pick up shield really easily. Just have that extra defense, and then we can take something like Cure Wounds or Healing Word just to help out with our healing, and we become the healer right away. Level 2, we won't talk about much. You get sorcery points, but they're only used for extra spell slots at this point, so that's what we'll use them for. Level 3 gives us Wither and Bloom. This literally takes HP from a group of enemies and gives it to one of our allies, so we're beginning that siphoning feeling right away. We also get our meta magic options at this level, and I'm going to be going with Quickened and Twinned. We'll talk more about them later, but for now we'll likely be using Quickened with Wither and Bloom to mix with Chill Touch just to get some extra damage output, or in case of emergency if we need to disengage or dodge or dash. Level 4 we get our first ASI. We're going to be bumping our Charisma. If it was odd before, we get a Charisma half feat. I'm going to recommend Shadow Touch for this build. It's going to give us invisibility, which is really great for protecting ourselves, and as a support we want to do that. And along those same lines, we're going to pick up False Life. False Life is a fantastic spell for buffering our HP, and it fits the flavor perfect. At level 5, we're going to pick up our next 2 signature spells. We're going to be picking up Vampiric Touch and Life Transference. Life Transference is an interesting spell. We roll some damage against ourselves, and then we double the amount of damage we did to ourselves to heal an ally. This is a really cool heal because unlike a lot of heals, it's a lot of healing, so it's burst healing. There's a big difference between sustained healing and burst healing. Aura Vitality would be sustained healing and it probably will heal more over time, but Aura Vitality on average is only going to be healing 7 HP a turn. This can be a problem in the middle of combat where your enemy's doing a lot more than 7 HP a turn, and so they can just keep knocking your ally down and the 7 HP really isn't doing much. This is where burst healing really comes into play. Life Transference does an average amount of healing of 36 HP in one action, so that is a massive burst heal to bring your barbarian back into combat and stay there, and that's where burst healing really shines, and that's something this character can do very well. Now, we've damaged ourselves to pull this off, and that's where vampiric touch comes in. Because we've designed ourselves to be a bit more tanky, we are able to kind of go into the front line more ably, and from there we can attack using vampiric touch, heal up that damage we did, and then use more life transferences to disperse that healing some more and heal it back up. And that's kind of the flow with this character we're wanting to go for. We use our HP as a resource, and then we use additional spells to bring that HP back up. I think it's pretty cool, and definitely a unique playstyle that we're going to try and capture here. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is a bit of a debate, is how does Life Transference work with twin casting? Some of the community says it just doesn't work because there's multiple targets. You're targeting yourself to do damage, and then you're targeting somebody else to heal them. Then there's the other argument, which is no, you're just targeting one person, and the cost of that targeting is some of your HP. But from the research I've done, it's going to come down to one of two things. Either it's not going to work, or it's going to be you do the damage to yourself once, and it heals 2 people, or all of that healing. So it changes from an average of 36 to an average of 72 healing for 1/3 level spell slot and a bit of your HP. This is going to be very DM dependent, so I wouldn't rely on it, but it's a tool we have in our tool belt if it's going to work out. Another example of mixing our meta magic in is if we are concentrating on vampiric touch already, we can quicken life transference only to use our action to get some of the HP back that we just spent. Another option is you can quicken vampiric touch the first turn, so you can use it, and part of using it is you get to attack with it, so you get to make an attack as a bonus action, then you can use your action to actually use vampiric touch, so you get 2 of them on the first turn you use it. Useful when you need to burst heal yourself. Now, because we are concentrating on vampiric touch in the front line, this is a good time to start mentioning our concentration checks. We have proficiency and constitution checks to begin with, but we also have favored by the gods, a level 1 feature from being a divine soul sorcerer. This feature will largely be used for this moment, is when we fail a saving throw, we can add 2d4 to succeed it instead and keep our concentration. It can also be used to make sure our vampiric touch attacks are landing if we really need that healing. So I'm talking about using life transference, I'm talking about using vampiric touch, and I'm talking about using quicken meta magic a lot, so we're burning through resources really fast. So a decision needs to be made. Do we take our first level spells and sell them for more sorcery points, or do we use them as our spammables, things like absorb elements or shield and so on? It's really ultimately a decision, and it probably depends on the day. It's just something to keep in mind that this is a resource guzzling build. Level 6 is a slow level for us. We'll just kind of skip over to level 7, talk about some more details. At level 7, we do pick up 4th level spells. I wouldn't say any of them are signature, but Death Ward we can do some interesting things with. On an ally, it gets them down to 1 HP and then allows us to burst heal them an average of 36 HP, which can be really fantastic. It really gives them a second wind. Or if we put it on ourselves, we can use life transference with only 2 HP left on ourselves, and it does the damage, and we can't reduce the damage in any way, and it doesn't. We just go to 1 HP. So we can actually save a chunk of HP by using Death Ward on ourselves combined with life transference. Pretty interesting. At level 8, I'm going to either maximize my charisma, or if it's already maximized, then I'm going to be picking up Warcaster. Warcaster is going to give me advantage on those concentration checks, which are extremely important, only about to get more important. And between our proficiency, the advantage, and favored by the gods, we should really not be expecting to lose concentration very often at all. At level 9, we get our final signature spell, Enervation. This is a spell I've really heard basically no one talk about, but I think it has a cool place for this particular build. Basically, we give them the good suck. We target one enemy and they need to make a dex save. If they fail it, we create a tendril between them and ourselves. After that, every turn we can use our action to keep siphoning life from that enemy, and it continues happening. They don't get another save until they create 60 feet of distance between us, they break our concentration, or we don't use our action to use the suck. This is going to deal 4d8 of damage and then heal us for half the amount, which doesn't sound like much, but I have 2 words for you. Twin Cast. Now this spell targets 2 creatures. They both need to make dexterity saving throws, and it's going to take 1 action to siphon from both of them. So instead of doing 4d8 per turn, we're now doing 8d8, which means we heal 4d8 per turn, which just happens to be the exact amount that Life Transference damages from us. So now we can just use our action to keep siphoning HP and then be using Quicken bonus action, Life Transference, to be giving out those big HP buffs. Again, it's resource heavy, but it's just massive amounts of healing. And I know you guys probably don't want to hear this, but Silvery Barbs is a cracked spell, and it's especially good when setting up our enervation. Now they have to make that dex save twice, and that can be problematic for them. Additionally, it being a dex save is actually pretty useful for us because who you want to target with enervation are the big bulky characters with a ton of HP, so we can just siphon it off of them all day. And it just so happens that characters with big bulky HPs tend to have lower dexterity, so it just kind of works out in our favor. And that's the build. Really, we're going to take this core and just get more spell slots to do more crazy things with it, and it'll be a lot of fun. Once we hit level 10, I'm going to pick up Distance Spell. When combined with enervation, we can get a 120-foot long straw. Someone who's trying to be a little bit more squirmy, we have an option to still lock onto them and keep draining their HP turn after turn. We're basically a mosquito that then takes that blood that we took from our enemies and gives it to our allies. I think that's a really, really cool flavor and something I think would be a lot of fun to play and a really unique playstyle. I had a ton of fun doing this build and challenge with RJ over at D&D Builds. Again, go ahead and go check out his video, and don't forget to leave a comment about the one you preferred more. But with that, my friends, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!